And welcome back, everyone, to the box office report. Today, on the 14th of April, 2024. Didn't get the box office right. Apparently, Ghostbusters was able to hang in there a little bit more than I thought it would. Civil War, though, like I thought, debuts with $25.7 million, making it the highest opening weekend for A24. We'll talk about that in a bit. Godzilla X Kong New Empire comes in literally right where I thought it would come in, 15 to 16 million, 15.4 million, dropping just about 50%. Ghostbusters: A Frozen Empire actually did a lot better than I thought it would. 5.8%, dropping only 34.6%. Why don't I try saying that again? 50.8 million, dropping only 35.6% for number 3 spot. Now, I was right that Kung Fu Panda 4 and Dune Part 2 would still be in the top 5. Kung Fu Panda getting number 4 with 5.5 million, and Dune Part 2 another 4.3 million. For the number 5 spot. So Civil War debuting with 25.7 million. Honestly, a really solid start to the film. Look, let me see what Civil War's budget is here. Civil War budget. I want the budget, please, because I don't know what the budget is immediately on this. 50 million. Except this is all. Oh no, those are different films. Yeah, 50 million. Which for an A24 film, admittedly is on the high end. But some of these films have had higher budgets than we give them credit for. Okay, you can come back now. Come back, please. Let's do that. There we go. So yeah, 25 million opening weekend. I mean, look, like I've said multiple times, cardinal rules, you want to try to make about half your budget back, which it did. We're going to see now what the long term for this is. Did not go out to see this film this week. I've explained my reasoning several times. I don't need to go over it again. Now, I do know it's got good reviews, and I did hear, reviews for the film. I actually have heard at least what the plot apparently is about, and it both makes me a little bit less apprehensive about the film, but now I'm like, wow, you're just cock-teasing me. That's false marketing then, isn't it? That is really not selling the product in the trailer to what is happening in the film. So, yeah. Now, it has a 83% from the critics. What are the audience saying, though? That is the question, because, again, that's where your money comes from. What does the audience think of this film? The audience verified 77%. So, honestly, the critics and the audience aren't too far off on this one from each other. That's out of 250 plus people. And yeah, less of the audience likes this than the critics do. And honestly, I'm not surprised by several things. One, subject matter. Obviously, the movie isn't, from what I know from the review, the movie isn't quite what it's selling you on. And that might piss some people off. But two, just the whole idea of the movie, I think it's just there's something that leaves a bad taste in my mouth with that movie, with the concept. And again, if it had been coming out, say, even just 4 years ago, when everything happened, like January 6th and stuff like that, it would not be anywhere near as distasteful, I think. But because this was made between that then and today, this was made in that 4-year time span. This is not the time in our country's history to be making this film, I think. Now, granted, it's not quite about that, like I said, as far as I know, from what I've heard. But I think you're still... Clearly... Now, every film has a message, let's be very clear. And some films have a political message. I mean, all the filmmakers have their own politics, whatever. But unless you're looking for it, there's not usually a political message in there. The people who say there's a political message, for example, in, I don't know, Captain Marvel, are just freaking morons. I don't mind Captain Marvel, not the Marvels, Captain Marvel. But to say there's an actual political message is just stupid, or just virtue signaling or whatever. Just shut up. But a movie like this does have a bit of a political angle to it. So I get the impression, and a very today in our history political angle to it. It's one thing to have a political angle from a couple of years back or a fictional thing that doesn't have anything to do with what's really happening. But this is something a lot of people kind of fear could happen with our country. And I just don't think that maybe is going to go over well for the long-term box office. Now, again, the film apparently has got good reviews. It's not really about what it's advertising, kind of, which, again, two sides. One, that kind of makes me breathe a little easier. But two, I'm like, well, then why the fuck did you advertise it that way? Regardless, we're mostly just talking about why the film did as well as it did and how well it can do. And why it did as well as it did, well, curiosity is a big factor, obviously. I mean, people want to see that. Like, there's definitely going to be the people who, believe this should happen and want to see it. But there's also the people who just are curious about the film itself, sure. And then you get the people who straddle, who are obviously go see it like for their jobs or whatever. And then you get the people who are just don't care and want to go see a movie. Yeah, and those people still exist. Those people very much still exist. The question is simply going to be, how well does this film do? And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think this film does very well. This doesn't have, say, the religious angle that Sound of Freedom had. Sound of Freedom had a religious angle, and apparently it was actually a pretty solid film. So it was one of the few films within that genre that was able to kind of break out and do really well. Most of those films most of the faith-based films don't really do that well. But Sound of Freedom, financially anyway. But Sound of Freedom was able to crack through. Civil War doesn't have that luxury. Civil War doesn't have that built-in group that might go back to see it multiple times. At least not a large enough one that I think will make a big difference. I think at $50 million and probably about 25 in marketing, you're looking at a film that has to hit basically about $100 million. It's not impossible, but without seeing the numbers next week, I couldn't give you a firm guess. My guess right now, and that's all I got, is that this film will not make its money back. Unless this film does get an international release, and that kicks off. That pops off. But yeah, I don't see this film really having a long-term success. Now, granted, this film also seems to be trying to garner a bit more of the award consideration, so that might be a thing it's trying to do as well. But we'll wait and see. Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire. Moving on to more of a lighthearted fare. It stands at It made $15 million this week, $436 million. It's officially made its money back last week. Now we're just in the how far can it go phase of its journey. And, that's a good question. It was right around 360-ish last week. You've now added another 70-some-odd million. We're probably going to be adding about another 20 to 30 next week with the weekend. International at any rate. Or total, I should say, worldwide. This film, I think this was going to cap out maybe right around 500 million or so. It's definitely got gas in the tank left. It still made double digits this weekend domestically alone. So it's still got gas in the tank. But it's more like instead of going at about half a tank, it's now running at a little under a quarter. I think we are going to be seeing it really start to peter out now that the more mainstream releases of April are going to start showing up. Ministry of Angelic Warfare and Abigail being the two big ones this week. But look, 436. That would make it right now the third highest in the MonsterVerse series, if I remember correctly, because you have Godzilla, the 2014. You have Kong Skull Island. You have King of the Monsters. You have Godzilla versus Kong. Now you have this. This puts it smack dab in the middle. In terms of profit, or in terms of how much it made, because Godzilla, I believe, Kong is the number one. Then you have Godzilla. In terms of release, I should say, well, technically no. It's the most recent. It's actually not. It's actually the second lowest grossing right now, because you have think words here. You have Kong Skull Island, I believe, made more than Godzilla. Godzilla though they both made over like 500 million. Then you have Godzilla vs. Kong at around 470, I believe, is what Godzilla vs. Kong. Godzilla vs. Kong, hold on. Godzilla vs. Kong. Godzilla vs. Kong. Let's see here. Godzilla versus Kong. There we go. Godzilla versus Kong. That made 470. I think you can still catch the 470. In fact, I'm almost going to put a guarantee on it catches the 470. I do think it can do that. Catching the 500 plus beyond that, like say like a beyond 505 or something like that, which both Godzilla and Kong did over that. That I'm not sure about that. I don't see it becoming the highest grossing of the MonsterVerse franchise. I'm going to put it right there. It's not going to become the highest grossing of the franchise because you still got Kong Skull on like 560. That's another 124 it's got to do. That it does not have left in it. But to be able to cross 470, become the third highest in the franchise, and honestly, it's the lowest. It's the one with the lowest budget. This is why it's already made its money back and actually made a nice profit already. Is that it's the lowest budget they had or made on 135. You got to factor probably about 100 in marketing though. That I think you got to give it. So you're looking at a film that all it had to do was hit less than 360 to break even, and it now did that in spades. So now the question just is, how much does it make long term? With only 34 to get to 470? I think it can do that. No doubt, I think it can do that. Beyond that, though, what will it make? We'll have to wait and see on that. But hey, look, it's a good run. There's going to be more Godzilla and Kong. There's going to be more of this MonsterVerse. The numbers have shown that. By the way, I have not watched the video. What was it, Dr. Skippy or something like that? That how Godzilla doesn't work in America. I haven't seen the video. I've watched the video by watching people react to the video because I had heard about this video. I'm like, what? And I'm listening to this guy talking. I'm like, what subjective mental bullshit gymnastics are you trying to do to make this opinion of yours work? Like, oh my God. And apparently the amount of hate this guy got for the video is a lot. And hate as long as you disagree and aren't going to try to do anything is one thing. Hate in terms of threatening is another. Don't threaten, but legit, like, dude, you're such an idiot. Like, oh my God, if you've not watched it, go find it or go find people reacting to it because it's comical how much this guy doesn't understand the franchise he's talking about at all. Regardless, we'll see where it goes. The MonsterVerse is healthy. Godzilla is as popular as he's ever been, at least in the States, and honestly in Japan with -1 winning an Oscar. So right now Godzilla's riding it high. We'll have to wait and see what the future's going to look like for the Big G. But hey, I'm down for it. Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire, they're 5.8 million. I'm surprised it made it that far. I'm surprised it actually was able to stick around, A, in the top 5, but B, also only took a 37% drop. Good for it. The international clearly has kicked in a little bit, but not by a lot. 159.9. I've said this before, I'll say it again. The film, if I calculate it right, and I probably didn't, but I mean, I do the best I can, needs to hit right around 300 million to break even. Like, legit. Unless they lowballed the marketing budget at 50 million, which is possible. Like, they marketed the film well enough, so it's possible. I mean, I'll have to look and see if I can find a marketing budget, but why don't we try to find out right now? Ghostbusters Frozen Empire marketing budget. Let's see. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire marketing budget. Okay. So I already tried to look this up once before. Okay. Carrying around 100 million. Okay. So that's right. They speculate. Oh, no. Spectre cost that. No. Okay. Budget. 65% drop. They aren't giving me a marketing budget, sadly. I can't find any clear-cut answer on what the marketing budget is. Let's see here. The budget is $100 million. Okay. I can't find a clear-cut answer on that, sadly. But regardless, even if I were to lowball it at 50 million, and that is lowballing it, and I doubt I'm right on that. I'm almost positive I'm not right. It's not 50 million for its marketing. You're still looking at a film then that still has to hit about 220 to break even, which would fall in line with the other Ghostbuster films as well. Like, they didn't need a lot to break even. The Ghostbusters Answer the Call 2016, that didn't make its money back. That was made on too much money. But Afterlife did manage to make its money back. It was made on a lower budget. It was well received. Unfortunately, I think the biggest problem Ghostbusters faced was it wasn't well received. If it honestly had better reviews, even by about, because I believe it stands like the high 30s, low 40s. Even if it had only like a 15% increase, you're not talking about a film that's no longer in the low 40s, high 30s. You're talking about a film that's in the mid 50s, which still wouldn't be amazing, would be a lot more accessible to people who actually judge their movie going by that. The film also, while entertaining, I haven't seen it again since, and I think that kind of speaks a little bit to the fact that while it's not a bad film, it's kind of a one and done. Not a lot of people want to go back to theaters to see it. And that's really where the bulk of your money comes, from your opening weekend, but then the repeat views you get from the opening weekend. Like, you're going to make your biggest single chunk of money that opening weekend. Just ask the Marvel films. But your long term is, if the film's good, you're going to see a lot of return on investment on that. So unfortunately, Ghostbusters was not something that did a big return on investment, and that sucks. I enjoyed it. I'd like to see more, but the problems are there. I'm not sticking my head in the sand on there. We'll see what happens. Maybe it can get maybe it will be able to think words here. Maybe you'll be able to get one more bump from the international. Then again, I don't know how much of a bump it can get when it needs about 150 million. Kung Fu Panda 4. Kung Fu Panda 4. Another 5.5 million. Look, it's pretty capped. I mean, it's not capped out. I should not say that. Because it went from 110, this last weekend to 152. So it also has got a little gas in the tank still. I'd say this one's below a quarter of a tank though. We're not on its last legs, because I think what this is what I've been mentioning, and what some other viewers might have mentioned as well, where there's nothing that competes with this out right now. There is absolutely no competition that competes with Kung Fu Panda's demographic. There's no animated films out. There's no kit. The most child-friendly, let me actually go to because I have a Cinemark I go to, and I keep it up. Let's go to Cinemark real quick here and see what is in theaters right now. So we have Civil War, not to take your kids to. Godzilla and Kong, you could take the kids to, I think. You could take the kids to it, yes. Monkey Man, no. The First Omen, no. Ghostbusters, you could. I had some kids, saying, yeah, Ghost Slammer, yeah. Like, okay, you're having fun, whatever. So that's kind of Dune, no. Immaculate, no. There is the 20th anniversary of Shrek 2, but no. Arcadian, no. I hate you for bringing up Arcadian. I wanted to actually go out and see Arcadian, but I unfortunately didn't get it. Dracula 31, wow, that's getting a re-release. Arthur the King, Late Night with the Devil, Love Lies Bleeding. Like, there are a couple family-friendly-ish films. If your kids are fans of Godzilla and Kong, are fans of the Ghostbusters, sure. But there's nothing that you can just take your kid to, sit them down for a while, and be like, yes, it's colorful entertainment with movement and jokes. I recognize Kung Fu Panda. I recognize Paul. Like, there's not a lot of that out right now. We're not going to get anything even remotely close to that until If. And If's not even animated. No, it's a lot of CGI, but you know what I mean. If's not an animated film. You're not going to get anything that truly ends this thing's run until Garfield comes out. That's when the lasagna-sized nail gets put in the coffin. The 452, look, it's slowly climbing there. It is slowly climbing on the Kung Fu Panda scale here. Kung Fu Panda, hold on. Kung Fu Panda. Where does it rank for the other Kung Fu Pandas right now? Let's find out. I believe the original one made like 600 or something like that. 632. So it's probably not catching that one. What about Kung Fu Panda 2? It also actually made more, 665. What about Kung Fu Panda 3? It made 522. So currently, Kung Fu Panda 4 is, in fact, the lowest grossing Kung Fu Panda. It will most likely stay that way. But it was the cheap, like with Godzilla and Kong, it was the cheapest one to make at $85 million. So even though it is the lowest grossing at the moment of the franchise, like with Godzilla and Kong, this means that even though it isn't making as much as some of its predecessors, it's able to make its money back a lot easier because of that. And rake out a bigger profit because of that. So it's a bit of a balancing act, even though it doesn't score as high on the other Rotten Tomatoes meters as the other Kung Fu Pandas, and even though it doesn't make as much, the amount of money it does in terms of like its gross, the profit it makes arguably might be better, and therefore it can help continue the franchise. Dune Part 2, $4.3 million. Dune is also pretty done. Like, I've been using like the gas tank metaphor right now. I'd say this thing's been well. I wouldn't say it's quite on fumes, but it's whatever the phase before you hit fumes is. Like, if you've only got maybe 10 miles of gas on fumes, this thing's about at the 15-mile mark. Like, this thing's near done. But it might just be able to hit 700 million. It's only, roughly speaking, 16 million away from doing that. And people are still going back to see it. This speaks of the quality of the film. This speaks to, how people are kind of reacting to the other stuff coming out. This speaks to just, the type of film it is. So, but again, like with Ghostbusters, in fact, like with most everything on this list, it was a one and done for me. I have yet to see a movie, save for Godzilla and Kong, which I considered, honestly, this week, going out to see again, that made me want to go out and see it again. I have yet to see a movie. I haven't seen a movie that really made me go, I'm not going to go see that again. I haven't seen a movie yet like that. Godzilla and Kong is the one that came the closest. But that being said, hey, look, pretty much everything except for Ghostbusters right now is doing well at the box office. I mean, let's actually look at the box office real quick. The top 9, which are all in the millions. Let's see. Just add that's 51. Sorry, that's 41. We're talking about 51. That's 41. That's 56-ish. 56.9. 57, 52. 60, 56, 60. Yeah, it's 60, like 63-ish million they made at the box office this week alone, just on these guys. So good on them. And both Ministry and Abigail will probably get double digits this week. So that means it'll be the first time in a while I think a giant chunk of the top 5 will be double digits, which would be impressive. Monkey Man dropped 59%. Ooh. Look, it's only made on 12 million. Like, straight out, it's only made on 12 million, which is good. And I think I said it probably only has to hit between 30 and 45. But taking 60% drops is not the way to get there. Honestly, I'm not sure how well this film's going to do. Now, I guess the question is why? Why did it drop like that? I mean, at an hour and 2 minutes, it's really not that long of a movie. It was well received. The audience, well, I didn't have a huge audience, but the audience seemed to like it. It's a solid movie at least in my opinion. So why? I think it's the same issue we've been having with a couple of these films. In fact, honestly, when you look at the box office for repeat viewing, you got Dune Part 2, you got Kung Fu Panda, and you got Godzilla x Kong. Those are the only ones that have really seen an excess of repeat viewing on this list. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire? Nope. I'm highly doubting Civil War will see it. The First Omen doesn't look like it. And then if I were to go down and look at some of the other films real quick, Immaculate didn't get a lot. Imaginary did not get a lot. It wasn't a film that I think attracted audiences back to a repeat viewing, really. Which, luckily, again, on a $10 million budget means that even if this film loses money, which it does look like it will, in fact, let me just see, did the foreign update at all? Okay, the foreign did update. It did $5 million internationally, so maybe the international can kind of pull this over the finish line, but yeah, not necessarily the best. But at $10 million, that means the investment isn't large, and that means the risk reward is not that paramount. It's not that big of a risk reward. First Omen made $3.7 million this week. There's a big jump now. All right, international came in $20.8 million. Now, if I remember correctly, I think the First Omen. Did I look up the First Omen's marketing budget or budget in general first? Let's see. First Omen. Omen. There we go. The first Omen. There we are. What was the budget again on this? Because I think I looked at 30 million. 30 million. It did not have a big marketing budget, so you're looking at probably no more than 20. So 75 million is what it has to make. Not looking good for domestic, but maybe the international can kind of save its ass. That's the best you can hope for this right now. This one, and wait, Walt Disney Studio Motion. Really? Walt Disney? I didn't even realize that. Walt Disney is the one who. Disney's the one that put that. Okay, well. Okay, Disney. I think it's the first film by Disney this year. Look, Disney wasn't. I don't think Disney was expecting much with this. Honestly, legit. Who was asking for another Omen? Like, can anyone just stop and just comment real quick? Were you asking for another Omen? I wasn't. I barely like the original ones. I've seen all three of them. They're fine. They're not really something it's like Antichrist, Spawn of Satan, all that kind of stuff. I don't dig on that. When I go for horror, I like movies within all the genres of horror. There's definitely some psychological thrillers I like. I certainly like some supernatural movies, like the Conjuring movies are great. At least the first one's great. But demonic possession, I've never been a big fan of. What was it? Slashers, they can be fun. I had fun with that Scream, not the most recent one. I didn't see that one, but the one before that, like the revamped one. I had fun with that Scream movie. That was fun. I've had fun with it, like the Freddys and the Jasons, but I usually recognize they're not that great. Slashers in general aren't my thing. Like creature features, monsters, aliens, or mythology. Even if you're going to do spirits, like mythology, like the Curse of La Llorona, things, cultural mythology, things like that. That's the kind of horror I like. But even in the circles that do like this type of horror, I have no idea who was not only asking for a new Omen movie, but asking for a prequel to the Omen. Like, who was asking for that? So I think that's a big swing and a miss. Not just on Disney, but whoever had the idea. Regardless, The Long Game debuts with $1.3 million. I have no idea what this is. In 1955, 5 young Mexican-American caddies, out of love for the game, were determined to learn how to play. So they created their own golf course in the middle of South Texas desert. Honestly, it sounds kind of interesting. I have nothing else to say on that. I did not see anything for it. Beyond that, Someone Like You, which... Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, again, I just want to reiterate, I talked about this last week. After the tragic loss of his best friend, a grieving architect searches for his secret twin sister. Finding love along the way. Now, if I remember correctly, when I read this last week, it said, is an achingly beautiful love story seeking for his twin sister. I'm like, phrasing, folks. Phrasing. Arthur the King made another little under $1 million. Arthur the King did not make his money back, sadly. And it was a nice little film. Sucks. It didn't make its money back, but it was a nice little film. Wicked Little Letters. I have no idea what this is. Okay, yeah, I have no idea what that is. There's not much else to talk about, really. I mean, Immaculate made $21 million. But Neon almost never makes its money back. Imaginary was able to make around $38 million, which luckily does, I think, get it in the profitable range. So there is that. Other than that, though, there's not much else to talk about for the box office. It was mostly what I expected. Was I surprised that Monkey Man dropped as far as it did? Yeah, I'll say I was surprised by that. Was I surprised that Ghostbuster was still not only in the top 5, but in the number 3 spot? Yeah, I'll say that too. I was surprised by that. But Godzilla being number 2, Civil War, Godzilla crossing 400, being nothing about that surprised me. So this week we have Abigail, which I will definitely be out seeing that, and The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare this week. Definitely will be trying to to see those. My girlfriend wants to see The Ministry. I'll probably be at Abigail by myself. It sucks. My friend who actually likes horror moved recently, and she's out of state now. She's like only an hour away, but And she just moved, so she's still selling it. Otherwise, I would want to take her with me to see this, because I think we both have either a good time riffing on it or just a good time watching it, because it looks like it's a lot of fun. I've heard it's actually a pretty fun movie. So then the question now becomes, what does the box office look like for this week? See, I have no finger on the pulse on what the reception to the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is. In fact, can I find any reviews for any of them? Usually, if reviews are up by now, it's at least a good sign that the opening weekend could be strong, at least within reason for that genre. But, okay, Abigail does have an 85%. All right. Okay, good for Abigail. All right, that's good to know. Do we not have a review for Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare at all? Like, I don't even have a spot on the list here. Yeah. That's interesting. Okay, then. Well, I think I know where I'm going to put my guess. Abigail's going to be number one this week. You've got a new horror film, but you've got a fun vampire film with a comedic premise, but still going to be R-rated with horror and blood. I think that's going to be that big crowd pleaser. I think it's not going to be 100 million box office, but 20 to 30 is not out of the realm of possibility. So I'm going to go Abigail. Okay. Again, there's nothing telling me there's not even anything. That's the weird thing. There's nothing here for it even within box office, Rotten Tomatoes. Like there's no poster. Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Let me look that up if I can. Let's see here. Come on. Ministry. Come on. Ministry. Okay, Ministry. I double T'd it. There you go. Ministry of. No, hold on. Is it under the Ministry or is it Ministry? That's the thing I need to know. It's the Ministry. My bad. It's the Ministry. Okay, the Ministry. Okay, sorry. Okay, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. I don't know why it's not coming up on the. Okay, so is there any reviews right now for this? No, nothing right now. That's unfortunate. And that is never a good sign for your opening weekend. So, I also don't know, even though it says wide release, how wide of a release it is. So, again, Abigail. I think Civil War's dropping a minimum 50% next week, but Godzilla and Kong isn't going to be making 10 million either. So, I'll go Civil War. You know what? I'll go Ministry. I got to assume it's wide release. They've been advertising for us. So I'm assuming it's wide release. So I'm going to go Abigail, Ministry, Civil War, Godzilla, and Kong. That last one, though. All right. I'm assuming Godzilla and Kong's probably going to be somewhere in the 7 to 8 million range. So the question is, what does the drop-off look like for the rest of these? I'm going to go Kung Fu Panda 4. Even though Ghostbusters Frozen Empire took a 35% drop this week, you got 2 new releases, and those are probably going to take away some of those theaters for Ghostbusters, particularly Ministry. But then you got Kung Fu Panda, which, as I've said, has no competition. So its drop is probably going to be minuscule. So and it took less of a drop this week, and there's barely a difference between the two of them. So if it's a similar drop like this next week, Kung Fu Panda should theoretically be above Ghostbusters. So again, just to recap, my guess is Abigail, Ministry, Civil War, Godzilla and Kong, and then Kung Fu Panda 4. I might be dead wrong. If I am dead wrong, so be it. So, what do you got for the box office this week? Or this coming week, I should say. What did you think of this week's box office? Why do you think some of the films did as well as they did? And why do you think they failed as some of them did? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll catch you folks